Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. With the cooling temperatures, cool season lawns are starting to grow. Today, we're going to learn how to take care of them. Also, it's not too late to start a compost pile for next spring. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Joseph Seago. Joseph is a UT Extension Agent right here in Shelby County, and Tonya Ashworth will be joining me later. Joseph, good to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
All right, so we're going to talk about those cool season grasses that we can grow here in the South, because we are in the South, all right?
That's right.
So what are some of those cool season grasses that we can grow here?
We're going to grow a tall fescue and a bluegrass mix.
All right.
So the tall fescue is going to have a little bit more height to it, keep the roots a little bit cooler, especially in the summertime, a little bit warmer in the wintertime, and then the bluegrass is going to have more of a drought tolerant. Okay. So we kind of get a good blend of both.
Good. So why do we call them cool season grasses?
They're cool season grasses because we grow them mostly in the north, in the cooler climates. Down here in the south, it gets pretty warm June, July, and August, and they kind of struggle some. Okay. They have a little bit of drought issues and heat issues. So. All right.
And here, particularly in Tennessee, we're in this transition zone, so it's, can be difficult to grow some of the cool season grasses in this area, right?
Yeah, so they, since we are in that transition zone, we can grow them pretty good in the wintertime, early spring, and then as it gets hotter during the summer, they kind of slush off a little bit, kind of die back a little bit, turn a little brown, and then same thing for our warm season grasses. Right. They kind of have the opposite effect.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the difference between a cool season lawn and a warm season lawn?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So cool season lawns, like I said, they're going to be more active and growing during the late fall, early winter, and then they'll kind of slow down a little bit once it gets pretty cold. And in springtime, they will kind of get active again, start growing again. And then during the summertime, when it gets hot and gets dry, they kind of stop growing. They can get a little brown on the tips, and they just look like they need some water. And it's real important to irrigate them a lot during that time of the year.
Right. Because your cool season grasses will want to go dormant in the warmer climates, right?
Yeah, so they kind of will go in a dormant, semi-dormant stage. And then our warm season grasses, they do the opposite. So they're getting ready to go dormant. They're starting to slow down now, and they're going to go dormant throughout the winter, and late spring, they'll start greening up, and they'll start really growing very well around June, July when it gets hotter. Okay,
yeah, that's good. So how do we take care of those cool season lawns?
So cool season lawns, we're starting about right now. Okay. And we're gonna do some interseeding about 30, 45 days before our first freeze.
Okay. And what do you mean by interseeding?
So interseeding is when you already have an established grass, and you're going to add more seed to it. Yeah.
So are there any other benefits to interseeding other than just aesthetics, just to look?
Yeah, it's just to look, and it's also to get it thick again, because during the summertime, it's going to thin out. Some of it's going to die back. Right. And so when you interseed and get that new seed going, it just thickens it up, makes it look a lot better. It's not as patchy, doesn't have as much holes in it, and it's healthier.
Right.
It's going to be healthier, which is going to help keep down your weeds. Right. And it's going to keep down some of your diseases and insects issues coming up into the springtime. Okay.
And again, we're talking about using seeds, right? So yeah, as opposed to your warm season grasses, do you really interseed your warm season grasses?
No. So you interseed. Interseeding is what's already established, and you're going to want that to build back up. Overseeding is when you have like a warm season grass, and you want to have green grass in the wintertime. Right. And we do that for different reasons. Aesthetics, maybe someone just wants green grass, but we also do it on a lot of athletic fields where they're playing soccer and football. because the Bermuda grass is getting pretty beat up. Our warm season grasses are, and so we want something on that surface for the kids to play on.
Okay.
And
And that's overseeding. That's usually with.
We usually use a perennial ryegrass.
Okay.
For that.
Right. All right. So what else we need to do as far as care goes? So we have to think about fertilizing.
Mowing, and
Yeah.
some irrigation. You'll have to supplement some irrigation depending on how much rain we're getting in your area.
Okay.
But mowing, like I said, mowing you're going to want to cut. Wintertime, you're going to want to cut at about 2 to 3 inches. 2.5 is pretty good. Something else you're going to have to think about is the broadleaf weeds.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they are going to pop up.
Yeah, they are. They are. Those winter weeds.
And so you'll need to go ahead and be ready for that and apply some herbicide.
Right.
For those.
So let's talk more specifically about fertilizing. So should we fertilize our cool season grasses? If we do, what are we going to use?
Yeah, so you definitely want to fertilize. Okay. And the first step to fertilizing is get a soil test.
I was waiting for you to say it. Good.
Get a soil test done. Because that's going to tell you how much to apply, at what rate, and when to apply it, and how often. So normally we're going to apply that fertilizer, this fall, and because that's when the fescue and bluegrass is actively growing. Okay. That's when they're doing their growing. And then again, you're going to want to fertilize again in the springtime. Okay. Because again, it's going to kind of come out of that winter dormancy that it's in a little bit, and it's going to start growing.
Okay. So again, for the cool season grasses, what about the watering though?
So irrigation.
How much water will it need?
Well, that's going to depend on how much rain you're getting in your area. You have to kind of judge it. So you're looking at, half an inch every 34 days to an inch every 14 days, and you want to use it as a supplement as well. And once it gets cold, again, you're not going to use as much water because it's not going to be as actively growing.
Got it. So do we need to think about aeration with our cool season lawns?
Yeah, so it's really good to aerate, just like you do with warm season grasses. Okay. The fall is a great time to aerate because it's when it's actively growing. Right. You can also do it in the summertime. Okay. It's not as good as doing it in the fall. Sure. And the other reason why you want to do it in the fall is because it'll open up that soil, and it'll make, when you interseed, you'll get a better contact from the seed to the soil. Right, because you definitely want to have that contact. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that seed's going to root in a lot better and a lot quicker with that actual contact to the soil. That is good, because you can get those nutrients and that water, the air down into the soil profile. It's really beneficial for a healthy turf. Exactly. So any insect, pressure we need to be concerned about, any diseases? Not too much of an insect. They're gonna, die off in the wintertime, or they're gonna go dormant deep into the soil. So we don't see too much insect pressure. In the springtime, you do have to be on the lookout for brown patch, which is a fungal disease. Of course, because the grass is growing. We're still have some cool nights, maybe some cool days. We're getting in a lot of rain. And so brown patch can develop. Okay. Do you see many cool season lawns here in the South, particularly here in Shelby County? We see some. We have some. Not a whole lot. It is very difficult to grow. You really have to be dedicated to it. Yeah. And you have to understand that during the summer months, when it's hot and dry, it's not going to look its best. Right. It's going to look beat up. It's going to look stressed. Right. Irrigating it is going to be big key. Cutting it at a 3.5 inch height to protect those roots, because those roots will burn up pretty quick. Right. All right, folks, so there you have it. Cool season lawns, right, for the South. Appreciate that, Joseph. We appreciate that. Good information. Good information.
This is goldenrod, also known as solidago, part of the aster family. And it blooms in the fall of the year, which is good for pollinators because it's something blooming when a lot of things is not blooming. And you'll see it along the sides of the roads. It grows with a stiff stalk. It's green until it starts blooming in the fall. So if you see something stiff growing up, with these nice pointed leaves on it. I would leave it and see if it's not a Solidago plant, because this is great for the fall blooms, for pollinators, and it's just something really pretty in the yard. This happens to bloom at the same time that ragweed does, and ragweed is not a Solidago, ragweed is ambrosia. So they're completely different plants, but this one is blooming at the same time that everybody starts sneezing from the ragweed, but they are completely different plants, and this is not the culprit, but this is when they both bloom.
Tonya, glad you're here today. We're going to talk about composting. But here's the thing about composting. A lot of people want to do it, but they don't know how to do it. So you're going to help us out today, right?
Yes.
All right. So why do people compost anyway?
Well, there's different reasons. You can make composting as simple or as complex as you want it to be.
Okay.
I go for the simple method.
Yes.
You just put everything in a pile and let it rot.
Okay.
And the reason I do it is for environmental reasons. I don't like to see plastic bags full of leaves sitting out on the curb to be taken to the landfill.
Right.
So my goal is just to not put biodegradable things in a landfill in a plastic bag. But for people who are more serious about composting and plan to use it in their garden, it's a fantastic way to make your own nutrient-rich soil amendment. It has free fertilizer for you. In fact, it contains all of the 22 essential macro and micronutrients that plants need to survive.
Okay.
Let's think about it like this. In a regular bag of fertilizer, you might have your nitrogen, your phosphorus, potassium, and maybe a few trace elements. But when you put parts of a plant that was alive, you know for a fact that that plant contained every single macro and micronutrient needed to survive. So you know that in your compost pile, you're going to get out every single macro and micronutrient that you need to make your plants live.
That's right.
And that's a great reason to compost. Also, when you put it in your soil as an amendment, it helps with the pore space, opens up the pore space, allows air and water to transfer in and out to the roots. So those are some really good reasons.
Those are
to compost.
good things. Yeah, because you're not going to find that with your commercial fertilizers, that's for
Right.
sure. Okay, now what do we add to compost piles, or what shouldn't we add to compost piles?
Okay. Well, simple things to add would be kitchen scraps.
Okay.
Like when you're chopping up your vegetables to cook, the ends and the carrot tops and any kind of thing like that. What you don't want to put from your kitchen are things that have already been cooked.
Okay.
You don't want to put any kind of a bread product or any kind of meat in there. You strictly want to do your vegetables. You can do eggshells. That's not a problem, but I wouldn't do dairy or anything like that. Also from your yard, you've got free material out there as well. Your fall leaves that are about to hit the ground.
That's right.
Just put them into a big pile.
Okay.
Would be simple enough, but you can use your fall leaves, and then in the summertime when you're cutting your yard, you use grass clippings. If you have one of those bag attachments that already goes on your lawnmower, that's a great thing. Or maybe you have a mulching lawnmower, but at our house sometimes we wait a little too long between cuttings and we still have some clippings laying on the ground.
Okay.
You just rake those up and put it in the bin.
Okay. Yeah, those are real good things to use, because I'm like you. I hate to see all the leaves just piled up, in plastic bags on the side of the curb.
The thing
Come on.
yeah, I know. The thing to look for, though, what you don't want to put in, if you are cleaning out your garden, you can put in things in your compost pile from your garden. You want to make sure, though, that you don't put in anything that has diseased plant parts. I'm thinking tomato plants, if your tomato plants had a disease. Or if you have an insect infestation on your plant, you don't want to introduce the insects into your compost pile. It's pretty obvious. You don't want to put things like the things you pick up from your dog should not go in there.
Waste.
People ask about manures, and you can use manure in your compost pile, but you want it to be thoroughly rotted before you put that on your garden. I'm talking like a year. And then if you use a compost-based, a manure-based compost in your garden, you want to give a 120-day harvest interval. That means you want to wait 120 days from the time you put it on until the time you harvest your vegetable. And I'd be especially careful if you're growing root vegetables in it.
I would, yeah. Okay.
So those are some of the do's and don'ts of what can go in.
Well, what about weeds?
No.
No weeds in the
No,
compost pile?
think weeds that have gone to seed especially, you don't want to introduce weed seeds into your bin.
Okay. Now, how hot do we need to get that compost pile so we can burn up some of those weed seeds and some of these other things you're talking about?
Well, if you do get some weed seeds and diseased plant parts in there, you need to get your compost pile to about 131 degrees.
Wow.
Between 131 and 170 degrees, hot is that hot to be able to start killing off some weed seeds. And it depends, I've seen research, it depends on what kind of weed seeds you have. Like different weeds die at different temperatures and lengths of time. So I can't really say it has to be this for this many hours because it just depends. But it needs to be at least 131 degrees for at least 3 days, and then the longer the better. And I can tell you that it can be kind of difficult here to really get a hot compost pile. And the reason is because we get our grass clippings and the things that really heat up your pile seasonally. So it can be a challenge to get your pile hot enough to kill the weed seeds.
Okay. All right, you want to get us started?
Sure.
Let's see how this thing works, okay?
Okay, well here we're going to have a 2-pile system, and this is fantastic because this means that what we get out we can use in our garden. What would happen if we just pile everything in just one big pile and kept adding to the top is all of our good stuff would be on the bottom, we could never get it out. So what we're going to do is build a pile. The ideal pile is going to be 3 feet tall, 3 by 3 by 3.
Okay.
And then when we get it the right height, we stop.
Okay,
and we
we'll
let it decompose, and we start putting our fresh stuff in the other bin.
All right.
So that's what we're going to do. And we have some wonderful fall leaves here.
Yeah, I got the leaves.
And these are going to be, they call these browns.
Okay, I'll just dump them in there.
This is going to be our carbon-rich additives here. Rich in carbon. And then we also need to add some greens or things rich in nitrogen.
Okay.
And we have some wonderful things here.
Kitchen scraps.
Kitchen scraps, all sorts of stuff. And I'm going to kind of put these in the center.
Okay.
If you are worried about attracting pests to your compost pile, just kind of bury your kitchen scraps, and that should take care of that.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of put these here in the middle.
Okay, just throw them in there. Okay.
And you don't have to buy a fancy compost crock to put on your kitchen counter. Any kind of a sealable container like this is fine. And it's something with a lid.
Cool.
I know.
Oh, banana peels and all that good stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and so then let's see what else we have. We have some grass clippings. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And the grass clippings will give us a good supply of nitrogen. And grass clippings break down super fast. They'll really, really start to heat the thing up.
And we're going to put that on top, right? Okay. Break that open. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have some clippings from our garden here.
Okay.
Not clippings, but older plants from
actual plants.
the season, All right.
Oh, she just tosses that in there.
Just toss it in.
There.
Now, what you need to do is to get your compost pile going, mix everything up.
Okay.
This is what I use.
All right.
Just kind of like a pitchfork. Just kind of shove some of that back in there.
Tonya, have you done this before?
Yes.
All right, looks like you know what you're doing.
And you want to turn your compost pile, ideally, if you want to try to do a hot compost pile, ideally you want to turn it every week.
Okay, every week.
You also need to add water. We don't have the hose out here with us today, but you know you have the water right. If you reach in and feels like a damp sponge.
Okay.
You don't want it soaking wet all the time, but it needs to be a little moist.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So how do we know when it's ready though?
Well, your pile is going to shrink a whole lot.
Okay.
And when it's ready, you aren't going to be able to tell what was a tomato and what was a leaf. It's not going to smell, and it's going to look like just really good potting soil. Look like dirt.
All right, that's what we want at the end of the day, right?
I got this little gizmo to show you. This is another compost pile turner. When you stick it in, these go like this. When you pull it out. The reason you want to turn it is to allow for aeration to get in there. If it's not aerated, you can get yucky smells. You can also get some aeration going by putting a pretty large limb in the center of it to open things up.
Just open it up.
There's that. And then you can also get a thermometer.
Okay.
Compost thermometer to stick in there. Of course, ours isn't going to be hot, but it'll tell you low, medium, or hot on there and the temperature, so you can see if you're getting it hot enough to kill any weed seeds.
All right, well, Tonya, we appreciate that demo. We hope, folks really get into composting now. Thank you much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
We planted pansies and Swiss chard, and now we need to protect them from wildlife. We know there are deer that come through this area. They've uprooted our pansies in past years. We've had to replant them. Also, before we planted our Swiss chard, the rabbits ate it. So we need to protect it and try and keep wildlife away from it, at least till it gets established. So what we're going to do is we're going to use bird netting, and we're going to put bird netting over it. Now, we don't want to just lay the bird netting on the flowers, because the flowers will either be tangled up in it, and when we try and take it off, it'll pull the flowers out, or it'll just restrict and smash them. So we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in some bamboo stakes, and then we are going to zip tie the bird netting to the bamboo stakes. I'm going to put 4 across here just because of the size of the bed. Okay, so our stakes are in. Now let me get the bird net. I have here some landscape staples, and I'm going to just put it through the bird netting here in a couple spots to secure it to the ground. And then I have my zip ties. Get nice and tight. That holds the bird netting. So there we go, we got the net in. Now what we need to do is just go around and put in some of these landscape staples here to hold it down. So now we have our plants protected from small creatures, but it's nearly invisible. So unless you're looking for it, you don't even see the netting.
All right, here's our Q&A segment. Y'all ready?
Ready.
All these are some great questions, all right? Here's our first viewer email. How do I get rid of red ants in the flower pot without killing the plant? And this is Monica. So, Joseph, what do you think about controlling those ants that are in the flower pot?
Yeah, I would recommend using a bait.
Okay.
And just spread it out on the outside of the flower pot, you know, on the ground around the flower pot.
Right.
They'll get it.
They'll get it?
Yeah, they'll get it and get back up in their nest. And
You think that'll take care of them pretty good for you?
yeah, they'll take care of them.
Okay. All right. You have anything you want to add to that,
Oh,
Joel?
no, I like baits. That's what
Yeah.
I would do. And of course, if she wants to, she can repot it.
Yeah, I thought
But
about that.
Yeah.
that's a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
It's just easier to get some baits.
Yeah. Unless it's time to up pot, you know, maybe a good
I
idea to
could.
do it at that time. Or you could use some water, maybe flood
Yeah.
them out. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a possibility as well.
That's true.
Yeah, so you could do that. But any of those methods, I think, would be good, Monica. So thank you for the question. Watch out for those ants, all right?
Yeah.
Here's our next viewer email. Something is eating our hostas. Haven't we heard that before?
Yeah.
How do we keep our hostas safe? And this is Doug from Bartlett, Tennessee. So Joseph, something's eating those hostas.
Yeah.
Any idea?
Yeah,
Maybe eating those hostas?
yeah, it looks like it's rabbits.
Yeah, it's something we talked about, right, from the picture, and we appreciate that picture, yeah, because the rabbits, yeah, clean cuts, angled
Clean cut
cuts.
angles, and they only eat down to a certain
Right,
part, so they're not eating all of it.
right, like
So
like deers will.
Deer would just like, bite it off and there'd be nothing but stems left.
Right.
And it's only eating parts of it at a time.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, how do we keep those hostas safe though? What do you think, Joel?
Well, wires are always good. I like, for voles, you do wire under the ground. For rabbits, I would put chicken wire on top.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you can make a little cage out of it, or, just keep them to protect them.
You can also put them in raised pots, something high off the ground the rabbits won't get into. Be
Okay.
another option.
Okay. Yeah, so there are a couple of options for you, Doug. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hostas, yeah.
It's
Tender-
it's the candy of the plant
Right,
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these little critters love hostas,
Oh,
right?
they
It must
do.
be the taste of something about it, right? So thank you for the question. We appreciate that. All right, here's our next via email. What is this? It just came up in my garden. This is Rick from Corinth, Mississippi. All right, Mr. Rick. So Joseph and I, we're going to get out of the way, right? Because somebody actually grows this plant in their landscape. So we'll hand this over to Joellen. So Joellen,
the expert.
take it away.
That is a nerine,
Ah,
called
nerine.
nerine lily or a Guernsey lily. It's nerine sarniensis.
Oh, okay.
It's
All right.
fall blooming, and that's why I have it, because it blooms in the part of the year there's not a lot of things are blooming. So it's nice and bright red. I have it out my front and just have it all lined up. I have it where the daffodils are in the spring, so they trade out colors. But yes, very, very nice plant. And yes, there are no foliage on it. When it finishes blooming, the foliage then will come about and stay out most of the winter. and then it'll die down in the spring, and you won't see it again until it blooms in the fall. So yeah, nerine.
Can you tell
Love
she's
it.
excited about that?
Love them.
Nerine too.
Yeah.
Great plant.
So I actually
Great.
said red spider lily, but you did say
That is sometimes it's a common name,
Okay.
but nerine lily and Guernsey lily is
Guernsey.
mostly what they are referred as when
Okay.
you're looking for them. And you can get them online and buy them locally if you can, and you know, fairly easy to find. But yeah, nice blooming fall color in the yard. Highly recommend it.
All right, Miss Rick, I have nothing else to say. All right. So thank you for that question. We appreciate that. All right, here's our next via email. Can I grow garlic in containers? I live in an apartment, and this is Elizabeth. So, Joellen, can she grow her garlic
Oh yes, she
Right.
can.
on
Yeah.
her patio there in the apartment?
Yeah, all that she needs to do is plant them at the depth that she would normally plant them in the yard, in the ground,
Right.
and keep them moist, but let them dry out. They don't like to be too wet,
Yeah.
and harvest them when they get done.
Yeah, so make sure you have a pot that has draining holes at the bottom of it. You're gonna have to keep it moist, right?
Yeah.
So I recently went to a garlic festival,
Oh,
right? And
cool.
they talked about growing garlic. So 2 varieties. So you have to decide which one you want, Elizabeth, right? So there's a hard neck, right? There's a soft neck. So the soft neck actually grows best in warmer climates. The hard neck grows best in cooler climates. So decide which one you want to plant. Those cloves, make sure the pointed end goes up, right? Not down, it goes up. Yeah, keep it watered. I think it'll work. Enjoy your garlic,
Yes.
Elizabeth. I think it'll work, so thank you much. All right, Joel and Joseph, that was fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you much. All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about lawn care or compost, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.